Hello everyone. Let me introduce myself briefly. My name's Delyana. Today, I'm going to talk about discourse and genre. It is taken from Paltridge 2012. According to this topic, there are 9 points that I'm going to talk about. I'll begin with what is the genre. The next point, I will talk about relationships between genres. Then, I will talk about written genres across cultures, followed by spoken genres across cultures. And next, I will talk about genre and academic writing, followed by steps in genre analysis. I will continue with the social and cultural context of genres, followed by the discourse structures of genres, and finally, I will end with applications of genre analysis. Now, let me start with what is genre.
Genres are ways in which people get things done through their use of spoken and written discourse. In short, genres are activities that people engage in through the use of language. For example, you can see academic lectures and casual conversations are examples of spoken genres, while newspaper reports and academic essays are examples of writing genres. A genre often shares a number of features. They also often have a common functions and purpose, and genre may typically be performed by a particular person and at a particular audience. There may be a certain context in which a genre typically occurs, and also certain topics that are typically associated with the use of a genre. Let's talk about relationship between genres. A recent development in genres theory has been the notions of genre networks, genre chains, genre sets, and repertoires of genres. And a key issue here is the way the use of one genre may assume or depend on the use of a number of other interrelated genres.
Genre networks describe the sources from which its genre originates. As you can see in figure 4.3, a genre network for graduate research students. There are sporting genres and open genres. Sporting genres here are genres which are closed, not public in nature, and often difficult to access example of. In contrast, there are open genres that are genres that are public, are often published, and are easily visible or audible. Sporting genres often pose particular problems for graduate students and people who are beginning to carry out research. Now, let's talk about genre chains. It is the linking of genres within and across texts in order to determine how heritage language writers transport discursive patterns of cohesions across genres and across languages. For instance, you can see like apply for a job. There are certain genres that change with apply for a job. For example, like job advertisement, positions descriptions, letter of applications, and so on. Now let's take a look at genre set. It is the totally of the different genres that one individual or members of a given community engages in. Now we can see figure 4.4, genre chains and genre sets for the writing of Swells 1998, Other Floors, Other Voices Swells 2004. It shows the relationship between his original book proposal and the other genres that he was involved in, and which influenced the productions of the final text of his book. Now, We have repertoires of genres. It is the set of genres that are routinely enacted by the member of a community. For example, in science fictions, there are other worlds or planets, creatures or aliens, robots, or monochrome costumes. Written genres across cultures. Many studies in the area of contrastive and intercultural rhetoric have focused on the discourse structure of academic writing in different languages and cultures. Many studies have found important differences in the discourse structures of academic texts in different languages and cultures. For example, you can see in the work of Kaplan 1966, who examined different patterns in the academic essay of students from a number of different languages and cultures. On the other hand, other studies have found important similarities in the discourse structures of academic writing across cultures, and as founded by Cahill 2003, for example. According to Lecky 1997, contrastive rhetoric can most usefully be seen not as the study of culture-specific thought patterns, but as the study of the differences of or preferences in the pragmatic and strategic choices that writers make in response to external demands and cultural histories. And we have Kanagara 2002. Contrastive rhetoric research needs to develop more complex type of explanation for textual difference if it is to joy continuous fullness and the teaching of academic writing. By drawing together research in intercultural rhetoric, rhetorical genre studies, the systemic functional view of genre and critical discourse analysis, 1 2007 examines the relationship between text and the socio-cultural context in which they are produced in order to gain an understanding of why the texts have been written as they are. Now we have spoken genres across cultures. One interesting study that we have here that does this is Nakanishi examinations of going on a first date in Japanese, which in his study meant mostly having dinner with someone for the purpose of getting to know them better. What is especially interesting about this study is that the women in Nakanishi's study behave in a way during the date that is not typical of what someone familiar with Japanese cultures and communication styles might expect. Comparing with American women, the Japanese women observe their dating partners' behavior as a way of finding out more about them. They look at the way the men act and their use of eye contact. The American women comment more on what the man physically did or did not do on the date. There may be ways of performing the same genres across cultures that are quite similar. There may also be parts of the genres that are significantly and importantly quite different.
Next, we have genre and academic writing. The notion of genre is especially important for the teaching of academic writing. This has been taken up, however, in different ways in different parts of the world.
As we can see in Britain and the United States, English for specific purposes genre work has focused mostly on second language graduate students writing, while in Australia, gender-based teaching draws from the underlying concern in the Australian works with empowering underprivileged members of the community and providing them with the necessary resources for academic success. Let's move to the step in genre analysis. Bhatia and Bowersey and Reed present steps for carrying out the analysis of genres, in their case written genres. The first step is to collect samples of the genre you are interested in. And next step is to consider what is already known about the particular genre. Next, we have to refine the analysis by defining the speakers or writer of the text, the audience of the text, and their relationship with each other. And also we have to consider the goal or purpose of the text. And the important one, we have to consider about the typical discourse pattern for the genre. Now let's take a look to the social and cultural context of genres. In the case of a written text, factors that might be considered include the setting of the text, the focus and perspective of the text, the purpose of the text, the intended audience for the text, their role and purpose in reading the text, the relationship between writers and readers of the text, expectations, conventions, and requirements for the text, the background knowledge, value, and understanding it is assumed the reader shares with their readers, including what is important to the reader and what is not. And the last one, we have the relationship the text has with other texts. Next, I'm going to talk about the discourse structures of genres. There are ways in which the discourse structures of genres can be analyzed. The first one, by identifying its generic structures based on its genre category memberships, such as letter to the editor, doctoral dissertations, and etc. And next, I have by looking at rhetorical types such as argument, descriptions, and problem solutions that occur within the text. The last point that I want to share with you is about applications of genre analysis. According to Hammond and McCann-Horowitz, 1999, genre-based teaching can help students gain access to texts and discourses, which will hopefully help them participate more successfully in second language spoken and written interactions. Genres provide a frame which enables people to take part in and interpret particular communicative event. Making this genre knowledge explicit can provide learners with the knowledge and skills they need to communicate successfully in particular situations. It can also provide learners with access to socially powerful form of language. To sum up, genre identifications is a complex one and requires a flexible rather than a static view of what it is that leads users of a language to recognize a text as an instance of a particular genre. Genre is an extremely useful notion of pedagogic purposes. That's all from me. Thank you.